Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chickenlandia and welcome to Bawk Talk, your 100% friendly backyard chickens show. So happy to be back here with you guys today. Sorry about last week. I just had a little bit of back pain, and when you don't feel good, you really don't feel like going live on YouTube. So I just had to put that aside. And so I'm going to do this week, and then we'll skip next week, and we'll do the next week, and we'll go from there. So I'm just so glad that you guys are here, and thank you so much for your patience. Today, we are going to talk about what to do with unwanted roosters. And when I say unwanted, I mean either you don't want them or your neighbors don't want them or your town doesn't want them. It's a dilemma, and usually anyone that has backyard chickens comes up against this dilemma at some point. So it's important to talk about it so that we can all have a plan. So I just want to say hello to my viewers that are here watching the live show. And also hello to those of you listening on the podcast. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. It's doing quite well. I'm so glad that I started doing this. It's been a lot of fun. So I just want you to know I appreciate you. So let me say hello to some of the people that are here. 13 Moons Homestead is here. She is our trusty moderator for today. Thank you so much. She's a great moderator. Go check out her channel. Erin Reside, Carmen A, Lydia Fink, Wagley 946, Almost Homestead is here. Christina's Corner, Brilliant Creatures. My goodness, so many people here. John Ridinger, PG Nano Farm, thank you so much for being here. Another one of my trusty moderators. Tracy Eldon Smith, 21 Savage. Oh, Maximalist Minibus is here. She says, more fabulous eyeglasses. You've heard of chicken math. Have you heard of glasses math? I do have a problem with that. Kinfolk Farm of Georgia, thank you for being here. Chicken Man, Harry, love the name. Carly Collector, Trenton Fowler, Donnie Ray, of course, Camp Canine Daycare is here. It wouldn't be the same without you. And thank you so much to everybody that showed up today. Lots of people here today. So who's been spending a lot of time outside with their chickens? I find myself out there more and more, especially lately. I also have a garden this year. I've been spending a lot of time out in the garden. And a big reason for that is that, we are just living in a time of chaos. And when I have chaos in my life and chaos around me, I just feel like I need to spend time outside and I need to spend time with my chickens. And that kind of helps to bring me back into the present moment and not in some scary future moment that I will spend time in if allowed. So I'm just so grateful this year that I've had that outlet and I've had that ability to find solace out there. And I know I'm not alone in that. But I will tell you, there is something about my chicken yard that does not give me peace. It's my rooster, Philippe. And if you've been following me for a long time, you know about my rooster, Philippe, also known as Satan himself. He is a little guy. I got him a couple years ago, right when I started my channel. Actually, the first real YouTube video on my channel is me showing off Philippe as a baby and his sister Pop-Tart. And I was super happy, and Philippe was so cute. There's another video called Baby Rooster's First Crow, which is my biggest video on this channel, even though it's not like any of my other videos. And that's Philippe as a baby. He's crowing, and he's just such a cutie. He's a little guy, but he attacks me daily. So if I turn my back on him, he will go after my calves and after my feet. If I bend over, he will bite my butt. And it's not fun, and it's not peaceful. And a lot of people have asked me, like, why do you keep that rooster? You need to eat him, you need to get rid of him, blah, 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 blah. In Chickenlandia, basically, it's mostly rescues out there. And I have a really soft heart for chickens who have really, like, changed my life. I mean, they really changed my life. Believe me, I did not know. If you would have asked me 20 years ago, are you going to be the president of Chickenlandia someday? I would have said no. Because I didn't think that was going to happen. I had no idea. And now I have this wonderful life having to do with chickens. So I feel a little bit indebted to them. And I love them, and they're my pets. And so I'm just, like, not in that camp of people that would eat my rooster. And that doesn't mean that I think it's bad. That doesn't mean that I don't understand that is necessary sometimes for people, depending on their lifestyle. It's just not my thing. So I will tell you right now that what we will not be talking about today is how to dispatch your rooster. That's just not my thing. Most of my viewers, most of my audience kind of lean towards the pet chicken people. That doesn't mean I have judgment for people that have chickens as livestock. I'm absolutely thrilled when people do that, because that means less chickens in a factory farm, which is the goal. But it's just not my thing. So we won't be talking about that today. We get that out there right now. And I also, when I talk about Philippe and I call him Satan, I also acknowledge that he actually is not mean. He's not a mean-spirited being. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, I hate roosters. Like, they're mean, and I have this mean rooster." And I think it's important for us to remember when we're dealing with roosters, and really when we're dealing with any animal, is that they are just practicing their nature. They're not like people where they have ill intentions. When Philippe is attacking me, he's just like, he thinks he's protecting his flock. He thinks he's doing the right thing in his chicken brain. So as much as I get super duper frustrated with him, I try to remember that. And one of the things that I try to stress to people when dealing with roosters and with dealing with, like, predators or any animal really, is that they're just being animals, and they're not trying to do something wrong or mean, but it's up to us as humans to recognize that and treat them with compassion and humanely, no matter what we decide to do. So, let me get off that soapbox. So that's kind of the elephant in the room, where I don't talk about dispatching your roosters. I just wanted to put that out there first thing. So I want to say hello to some more people who have come into the chat. Craig Armstrong is here. Sunny's Place is here. Hello. Donnie Ray. Carmen. I'm not going to destroy your last name. Lots and lots of people here. Thank you so much for being here. So glad that you are here. So I did get some questions, because now it's the time of year right now where people are like, okay, I got baby chicks in the spring. They were cute. They were fuzzy. The farm store told me these are all hens. And now they're crowing. So, the best thing to do in the best case scenario is to have a plan before you even get chickens, because I talk a lot in my Backyard Chicken 101 videos that roosters happen. And even if you get your chicks from a hatchery where they have been sexed, which means that they have separated them between male and female. And what you would find usually at the farm store would be female, or it'll say pullets, which is a young hen that hasn't reached the point of lay yet. Even then, that is not 100% accurate, as many people are discovering right now. And I volunteer at the Whatcom Humane Society, so I know how many roosters get dumped every year, and I know how often people try to take roosters to the Humane Society, and the Humane Society can't take them because they don't have the capacity. So it's tough, and to me, I try really hard not to judge. I know that roosters get dumped in the forest. I know that some people dump them on other people's property, which is not cool. I try not to judge. My job is to educate. Because when people are educated, then they tend to do the right thing. So let's talk about it. I got my first question from Vivian. And Vivian said, "What is the best way to find a good home for roosters? They aren't permitted where I live, and I ended up with 4 out of my batch of 12. Ugh. Don't buy a lottery ticket right now, Vivian. Also, trying to rehome my bantams. They're so cute and funny. I don't want them to go to a bad person. What should I do?" Well, I totally understand that. And it used to be easier because a great resource for everybody was Facebook. And many of you know that there's lots of chicken keeping groups on Facebook. Usually your county will probably have a chicken keeping group. There's some like state to state chicken keeping groups. But Facebook at some point decided that they did not want to absorb the liability of animals being rehomed. And I get that. I understand that. A lot of people really don't like it, but they're a private company. They get to decide that. So, but even though it's against really Facebook rules, there are some groups that are still allowing rehoming posts. So, and the groups haven't been removed. And now there was a big group that I was in that got removed because people kept posting rehoming posts, and some of them haven't. And it seems to be kind of arbitrary. I don't know what the criteria is for Facebook to decide which group gets removed and which one doesn't. So you may still have that option depending on the groups where you live. Whenever this was going on with Facebook, MeWe came out, and that's another like social media platform. It didn't really pick up a lot of steam from what I understand. Maybe if you guys are on that platform, you've experienced something differently, but I haven't seen that it has been very active. But you could try it. And then there's also Craigslist here in the US. And there's usually, depending where you are, something comparable to Craigslist, which is basically like an online ad thing. I'm trying. Oh boy. When it's live, the words don't come. I can't think of the what is it called when there's like ads listed? Classifieds. It's like an online classifieds. Thank you, brain. So the main thing that I think that you should look for is, first of all, when you're posting an ad regarding your rooster, make sure that you are very clear with the kind of home you're looking for. So if you don't want your rooster to get eaten in the home that they go to, you need to say that in the ad. If you are okay with that, then say that in the ad. If you are very concerned and you really want to know where your chicken is going to be living, then you can ask for pictures of the land, of the setup that they have. You can ask them questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't feel, like you shouldn't be asking questions. Don't listen to people when they're like, "Why are you asking so many questions? This is just a chicken. I'm trying to take your chicken." That's a red flag. Like if they don't want to answer questions, that's a red flag. So, and also if people are ridiculing you because you care about where your chicken goes, that's, you know what? Haters just got to hate, but we don't listen to them, okay? Um, a lot of people will say, and they've said this to me, like, "Oh, it's just a chicken. Like, why are you worried about it?" But my chickens are my pets. So, and I have dogs, and I have dogs that I have rescued. And every time I've rescued a dog, we've usually gone through some pretty rigorous interview questions. And sometimes it was a little bit over the top, but most of the time it was reasonable. And I know that those people, the people that work at rescues, they really deal with a lot of like dogs getting returned or dogs ending up being abandoned again. So there's a reason why they ask all those questions. And if those are your concerns, then I think you should absolutely ask those questions. I think another main concern would be that there is still cockfighting in the U.S. And of course in other countries there is too. Um, and so you have to be careful and ask the right questions to make sure that your rooster's not going into a situation that would be very torturous for it. So these are all things that are very legitimate, and I applaud anybody who is willing to ask these questions. And you may be like, "Well, I want to come and drop the rooster off or the chicken off." And that's an opportunity for you to see the property. And if you don't feel good about it, it's an opportunity for you to keep driving. And I know that would be like such an awkward situation, especially for me, because I'm like 100% like people pleaser. I'm trying to get over that, but that's how I've always been. So that would be really hard for me. But when you care about an animal, you got to be willing to take those kind of risks and maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable. Another thing that I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about today, but that is an option, is to take your rooster to your local auction. Um, so usually counties will have live auctions of some sort for animals. The only thing, I'm conflicted about it because my experience with auctions has not been good. Um, I've literally seen like a dead cow in the field that someone brought to auction off, and I've seen sick and injured animals at auction being auctioned off. And I'm a concrete critter. Okay, let's just get it out there. I'm from the city. Okay. So I do understand that I am going to be seeing things through that lens. I haven't grown up on a farm. I don't come from a long line of farmers. I actually, my grandmother and my great grandmother did farm. And they had livestock and they had chickens, but it skipped a generation. And many of us have had that experience where it skipped a generation, and now we're getting back into homesteading. But I recognize that, my experience when it comes to dealing with livestock is different. But even with that in mind, I did go to one auction where I was just so flabbergasted at how the animals were being treated. And this was back when my husband and I owned a farm store. And I came back to the farm store, and there was an employee there that was a farmer, and an excellent farmer, an excellent homesteader. And she was like, "What's wrong?" And I told her, "I went to this auction and it was awful. Like, am I wrong? Like, is this just because I'm from the city and I don't understand?" And I will never forget, she looked at me and she was like, "We can do better." And that really meant a lot because she was acknowledging, even with her knowledge and her, participation in farming and everything, she was like, no, like that's not okay. And so I think that there are good places, and I think that it's worth kind of vetting them and finding out, um, what you're dealing with and what you want to support. So that's what I'll say about that. The auction is an option, and there are a lot of people that go to the auction to get food. And that's important. Like I want them to have that. But just make sure that it's a place that you will want to support, because if they're letting like sick and injured animals there, you don't even, you don't want to be there. Like that's not good. So I'm getting on all the soapboxes today. 50 chickens in a hen house. Hello, thank you for being here. Green Dream Project is here. Both awesome moderators. And I'm just going to see if anyone has come in to see what's going on over here. Saffron Moon, thank you for being here. Red Hot Fiat, thanks for being here. Love the name. All right, well, let's just keep going. I'm going to move on to the next question that comes from Margie. Margie says, my name is Margie, and I recently got 4 black Australorp chickie babies. I love that. Josie, Veronica, Betty, and Valerie. This is my kind of girl right here. They've already got all the names, and they're totally like good chicken names too. Well, Josie has started crowing. Johnny? I'm not sure, but I think Veronica is a jughead and Josie is an Archie. You see the theme running here. I am concerned having 2 roosters with just 2 hens. They all seem to be getting along fine, but I am traumatized when I look it up that only 1 rooster for 10 to 15 hens and having 2 roosters will cause overbreeding. That's true. That can happen. Please help me if you have any ideas on what I should do. I really don't want to have to separate them or find a home for one of them. They are my little ones and they are precious. First of all, Margie, I want to totally validate your feelings because I get it. My chickens are my little ones and they are precious. I think you're just going to have to wait and see how it goes. Like that's like the first thing that I would tell you, because sometimes, one rooster could be very docile. Another rooster, the other rooster might not be too aggressive with the hens, and it might work out. You just don't know. Now, you definitely in a situation like this, you want to make sure they have enough space, and you want to make sure they're getting enough food, and you want to make sure that they're not stressing out, because outside stressors could exacerbate, is that the right word, the problem. So you don't want that. But I think, in this situation that you're in right now, your first course of action will be just to wait and see what happens and to see how they relate with each other, because every flock is different. So, I do hold a little glimmer of hope for you that it will work out. Now, I'm guessing from some of the other information that you sent me that your chickens are about 13 weeks old. So at 13 weeks, any rooster, depending on, and these are black Australorps, so you should really be able to tell at this point if they are roosters. They should have pretty predominant red combs, pointed saddle and hackle feathers, longer tail feathers. There would be, like for a black Australorp, more of a green sheen on them, especially on the tail feathers. Now, sometimes it might be hard to tell, because if there are 2 roosters and one is dominant and one is more docile, the more docile one will not look as much like a rooster until the other rooster goes away. and then they will develop more into a rooster, and they might not crow until the other rooster goes away. So that's something to keep in mind. But generally, by this point, you should be able to tell. What I would do right now, while you're waiting and seeing what happens, is start making a plan. And, everything that I mentioned before, avenues that you can take, as well as, even on Facebook, you're really not supposed to be posting rehoming posts, but you probably know some people that have chickens. You can still use Facebook Messenger. You can put your feelers out there. You could go to your local farm store and put an ad up. If they have a place where you can put up an ad, you can do that. So that's another thing. And sometimes just getting those feelers out there, there'll be somebody that comes to you and says, "Oh yeah, I do. I'm looking for a rooster." And there are people looking for roosters, especially bantam roosters. Those are usually easier to rehome. But start making your plan now, Margie. And of course, I wish you the best of luck. I know what it's like. I've been there, and my dream, and I'm gonna upset some people with what I'm about to say. My dream is that someday roosters will be able to crow in the city. And, actually in Bellingham, Washington, within the city limits, you can have a rooster. But at the point somebody complains, you're kind of up the creek about that, because animal control, at that point they will intervene, and it's just not that you might get fined. It's not that they say it's supposed to be the same as like with a barking dog, like a nuisance barking dog, but it doesn't seem like they are willing to work with you as much as they would as if you were trying to keep your dog that barks a lot. People just don't have a lot of patience for a crowing rooster. But I think that, as we move into hopefully a more sustainable society where we're growing our own food in our yards, whether we live in the city or in the country, where we're being more mindful about the impact we have on the earth, and the impact that we have on animals, and the impact that we have on each other, that we can come to recognize the sound of a rooster crowing as the sound of our children's brighter future. You didn't know you were going to hear that today. It's all about, it's all about just getting used to it again. There was a time in this country, and certainly, where my family is from, in Guatemala, and all over Central America, South America, other countries, there are roosters crowing in the city, and people just are okay with it. And there's certain things that you can do to kind of mitigate the issues that come up with roosters, for instance, being awake at 3 a.m. But, I think that those are easy fixes, and I think that we can deal with that. And I hope someday we're just more open to it, because that would mean not only a better future for our kids and for us, but also for chickens. So there you go. All right. I am now going to open up for questions. So if you have a question, we've got a few minutes, and I'm going to be looking at the comments and seeing if anybody has a question that they would like me to answer. And I'm going to try and answer it, and I'll try and know the answer. No promises. It does help me if you do have a question to put it in capital letters, because that helps me to see it. Mostly I'm seeing a lot of reactions from people who are upset about people fighting chickens, because that's awful. Carmen A says, please answer Tristan's answer. I'm so curious. Okay, so was that asked in the comments, Carmen? Or was that sent in? Because I don't answer now, as I'm gaining more momentum here on Facebook, and I'm gaining more momentum on my podcast. I'm starting to get a lot of questions in. And it gets harder and harder for me to answer every question, and with the limited amount of time that I have. So I do try to get back to people if they send me a question through the website. I can't always do that, but I try. And now I've kind of narrowed down my podcast to address one issue, one topic, and that seems to have helped my viewership. So let me know what Tristan's question was. Almost Homestead asks, did you say at least 10 hens for one rooster? So I would say, depending on the rooster, 8 to 10 or more per rooster. I have 2 little roosters, and they have 8.5 chickens each. If you can figure out that chicken math, you didn't know you were going to have to do that kind of chicken math. And it works, but they're little roosters, and that's a great thing. In my opinion, having a little rooster is easier than having a big rooster for a number of reasons. The little guys, even if they're rude, it's not as bad. A full-grown rooster attacking people, that's a tough situation, certainly for children. So, that's one thing to consider. Get yourself a little tiny rooster. Lydia says, do you have any tips for raising egg production and keeping chickens cool in hot weather? I think that chickens have laying seasons. So when it gets really hot, they will likely not lay as much. Without a system of cooling them, that's just something that we have to deal with as backyard chicken keepers. Certainly in the winter, you would need to add light, preferably at the beginning of the day, in order to keep them laying. I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, you need to feed them a certain way, or you need to give them more protein. I really think that it has more to do with the number of hours of light that they have. And just keep in mind that if you push them to lay, that is going to shorten their laying life. So chickens have a laying life and they have their actual life. Their laying life is shorter than their actual life. And if they're pushed to lay, it's going to be drastically shorter. So if you let them kind of go with their natural rhythms and take their breaks when they need to, then you're more likely to extend their laying life and get more eggs, you get more time with them where they're laying. And keeping them cool in the summer, you know what? I think we're going to talk about that. Either I'm going to do a video about that, or I'm going to do a live show about that, because that's really coming up. And I'm kind of like behind the curve. Told you, the brain isn't here when it's live. I think it's curve. I'm kind of behind on putting that video out because I'm in the Pacific Northwest and it's still like getting in the 50s at night. So it's not that hot here. Actually, today is a hotter day. I think it's in the 70s. But I think the most important thing, make sure that they have shade. You can put some ice in their water. You can give them vitamins and electrolytes in their water to make sure that they're hydrated. You can ferment their feed, which will add more hydration to their bodies. And then I also will go outside and like spray down the whole chicken yard just to kind of cool things off. And I'll leave little like very shallow pools of water, and chickens will go and put their feet in it, kind of like the spa. So just keep an eye on them. If you are in a very hot area, you're going to need to keep a really good eye on them, especially if you have larger breed chickens, which are not, they're just not as acclimated to the heat as a lighter, let's say, Mediterranean breed would be. So that's my short answer for that. Chicken Man Harry says, "How many hens do you need for an egg laying business?" It depends on how big your business, how how many eggs you want to sell. Um, let's see. How do you ferment mash? I'm going to get back to that. Actually, what I'll do, Lydia, is I will leave a link. I do have a video about it. It's a very old video where me and my mom actually are fermenting feed. It's so easy. So easy. Believe me, if I can do it, it's easy. But it's a little complicated for me to just explain here right now. So I will leave that link in the description, and I'll also leave it in the show notes for you. And also 13 Moons has, look, she's so fast. Lightning. She's like lightning. 13 Moons Homestead just posted the link. And you'll also learn the story of Chickenlandia. Karen D asks, I would like to know when to start them on layer feed. You start them at the point of lay or at 20 weeks. So if they start laying before 20 weeks, start feeding them all layer feed. If they have not laid yet, then start at 20 weeks. Okay? Lydia Fink says, I'm in a wet area, possibly going to lead to coccidiosis. Lydia, do you mean like when I spray down the chicken yard? So just a quick word on coccidiosis. It's everywhere. It is literally everywhere. It's in the soil all over the place. And it's quite normal for chickens to have it present, to have coccidia present in their bodies. And a normal healthy chicken will have built up that resistance to the coccidia in their environment. Illness happens when coccidia from another environment comes into your environment and the chickens are not immune to it. So really your greatest risk is when you bring in chickens from another flock. But as far as like creating the perfect environment for coccidia in your chicken yard, obviously you want to practice good husbandry. You want to keep it clean. You want to get not sterile, but clean. You want to have just good practices, but there's no way to like keep coccidia out of your environment because it is in your environment, and that's normal and that's healthy. Karen D says, at what age do you start your chickens on layer feed from grower feed? So, Karen, at either at the point of lay or 20 weeks. Sorry, I think I already read that question, and I just like go. Oh, she said thank you. Okay, sorry about that. Carmen, I don't know what question you're talking about, but I am looking for it. Okay, Carmen says, we have storms here recently, and my chickens and unfortunately almost drowned. Oh, that's awful. One of them had a sneeze every day since then and can hear her breathing water. How can I fix it? Help. Okay. So one thing that I will say just right off the bat is that unfortunately I can't give veterinarian advice. Not only am I not a veterinarian, but I also, even if I was, I would have to like see the chicken and to do a proper diagnosis. So there's really no way for me to know what is going on with that chicken and what would be the appropriate treatment for that chicken. And it would be irresponsible of me to say that I did. So I just want to put that out there first and foremost. What it sounds like, and my best guess, and what Tristan may want to research is aspiration. And what that means is it sounds like the chicken almost drowned or drowned a little bit and got some water in its lungs. Which would not be, sorry, gotta drink that water. Speaking of water, that's not a good scenario, unfortunately. I would say that the best course of action would be to take that chicken to the vet. Because with aspiration, usually that means there's a significant infection in there, and they would need a lot of help, and they would need veterinary care and medication. I do have a video called Sick Chicken Action Plan. And it's just a very basic things that you can do when you have a sick chicken. It's just supportive care. It's not like medical diagnosis or anything like that. But it could help just to support that chicken. And then there's another video that I did called Chickens Sneezing. Here's what to do. And I will put both of those videos in the description and in the show notes for you. Like I said, those are both videos that suggest supportive care that you can do at home. Best case scenario, get the chicken to a veterinarian. And I'm sorry that happened. That's awful. Karen D asks, do you have any books that you've written? Stay tuned. Yes, Carmen says, what an unfortunate situation. It is. And I've had that happen. I have had that happen. And unfortunately, I didn't know that that's what had happened. I came into the chicken yard. I had some people helping me that day, and they didn't tell me that my chicken had fallen into a bucket of water. So I didn't know. And it was a little silky chicken that I had. She was so tame and sweet. And my son was like 2 years old. He just loved her. She followed me around everywhere. And so I went out there to get her because I was going to take her to like an event or something, or to meet some kids or something like that. And I realized she was very sick. And then she died very soon after that. And it was so sad. But, that kind of stuff, it happens to the best of us. It really does. And my solace in that situation, even if you can't take your chicken to the vet, you can't afford it, or you just don't have access to veterinary care, my solace is that chicken was cared for and loved while they were earthside. And that is more than we can say for most of the chickens in the world, because most chickens live in horrific conditions. And we're working to change that. That's what we're doing here in Chickenlandia and in Bawk Talk. And I just want to thank you guys so much for being here today. We're a little bit over 40 minutes. I like to keep it short and sweet in Chickenlandia. So I really appreciate you guys joining me today. Please check out my video on Wednesday. It's all about nesting box mistakes. So if you don't want to make those mistakes, you better watch the video. And I really appreciate it. So guys, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful Monday. Have a wonderful week. Remember, look me up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, even. I would love to see you guys there, and have a great day. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much. Oh, I do want to mention one thing. If you want to submit a question to Bawk Talk, go to my website, welcometochickenlandia.com. Go to the contact section, and there's a little drop-down menu. It says Ask a Chicken Question. Click on that, send me your question, and if I can answer it, I will on the next Bawk Talk. We'll see you then. Thanks. Bye.